It wasn't a good fit. So I think that's, something that you have to do. And that's part of why the mastermind exists, right? To build that know, like, and trust factor here so you can understand who we are, why we do what we do, how it can benefit you, and give you the list of, hey, here's the pros, here's the cons, here's your options. Now let's go ahead and make the best and wisest decision.
No, Brett, Pierce. Anyway, I think those are a series of very important points to bring up so that individuals understand who this is for and who this is not. And I'd like to invite Jake Carpenter, who's here with us out of the state of Washington. If Jake Carpenter, there might be other people here from the state of Washington. Do you want to say hello, introduce yourself, and then could you bring up maybe one of the deals that we've been working on recently and just talk about the scenario of the deal? Because that's where we're at in this show today. We'd like to talk about a few live deals.
Yeah, I'm Jake Carpenter. I own and run Carpenter Capital. Washington State, work all over the country with great guys like Jake Meller, Pierce, Brett Swartz. We have a really great team, and I'm going to piggyback a little bit on Pierce and then move into the deal discussion that Jake Meller just brought up. What I like about what Pierce said is, yes, there are a few things that can make the deferred sales trust maybe not appropriate, but the most important thing that I would encourage you to do if you're on this or know of someone that is on the fence is you've got to get a hold of guys like Jake, Pierce, Brett, myself. You got to get a hold of us and let us take a look at the entire picture, because sometimes it's just like what Pierce said. When we look at a micro, at your situation from a micro perspective, that particular situation, might not be a good fit for the deferred sales trust. But when we look at the macro perspective, there may be other factors that could qualify the deferred sales trust as being a foundational tool to build your estate plan or build your retirement plan on. So just be cautious of the always or never type of, if it fits into this and if it doesn't fit into that. Yes, there are qualifying factors, but don't hesitate to reach out to these guys like Jake and Pierce and Brett to qualify based on your entire financial picture, because most of the people we work with, Jake and Pierce can attest to this, they've got a lot going on in a lot of different arenas in their financial world. It's not just stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, and businesses. There's a lot going on. So with that, which deal should we talk about? Maybe the last one that we worked on. There's a lot of aspects to it. In this particular deal, we had to use a 1031 exchange in order to address debt over basis. Okay. This is one thing that even the CPAs don't quite understand, or they don't catch. Is if you have a sale of a highly appreciated asset, likely there could be some debt. What you have to do is make sure you consult with your CPA to find out what your adjusted basis is and how much debt is on that particular asset. Because if you've got $300,000 of adjusted basis, but you've got $2 million of debt, you've got a problem in the amount of $1.7 million of debt over basis. Now, you cannot defer capital gains tax on that 1.7. And the way it shows up is it gets taxed as ordinary income in that transaction. Now, you may just give up and just pay the tax or not sell, but you can use something called a zero coupon Delaware statutory trust to absorb through the acquisition of a highly leveraged property and take, instead of 2.7 million, you might take $500,000 and replace 2.7 million with just a small investment of capital through that zero coupon. So the last deal that Jake and I worked on together, and Brett, that was the situation. It was multiple sales. There was quite a bit, I think it was $2 million plus of debt over basis. We put the transaction into a 1031 exchange at first. We replaced the debt over basis with the zero coupon, and then we dropped the remaining proceeds into the trust.
Into the deferred sales trust.
Into the deferred sales trust. And that point, we Jake and I worked together to figure out great options for them to invest the remaining almost $3.5 million into. So there's some.
I was just going to bring up, Jake, that in the very first of the call, we talked about how the deferred sales trust oftentimes can become a keystone strategy. And I explained the arch, the stone or the brick arch, and how in the middle of the arch that kind of holds everything together, that becomes kind of like a main strategy is often the deferred sales trust. And that's exactly what happened with this client. Their goal is that they wanted to defer the gross proceeds that they were going to receive and be able to reinvest them. We were able to do that with the deferred sales trust, but in our discussions with them, we uncovered other problems, right? We found out that they had a debt over basis issue. That was something that, to your point, not even their accountants were very aware of or understood how that was going to be a huge tax ramification that would come back to bite them. However, we, just like in a stone archway, there's other stones next to the keystone. We were able to add zero coupon Delaware Statutory Trust as one of those side stones or side bricks, right? And then we were able to put together proper investment strategies. And there's just a lot of other things that we were able to do with this client to help him achieve his reinvestment goals. To the point, Jake, that he has invested more with us than he originally thought because he didn't have to pay taxes. And because he didn't have to spend so much on this debt over basis tax issue, and because he didn't have to spend taxes this year because of the transaction, he's invested quite a bit more with us and has broadened his outlook on what he can invest in. Before, his narrow outlook was just real estate. And now he's investing in real estate that is a little bit more niche through a Reg D fund and other businesses through other Reg D funds. And that is something that maybe he wouldn't have considered before if he didn't liberate a lot of the money that he would have otherwise had to send to the government agencies in the form of tax.
He's been so excited with the work that we've done for him that he's referred us probably, I think we're close to 24 referrals. But you're right. And so we got two kinds of investors through the deferred sales trust, right? We got active investors or we got passive investors. And some of them they want to be a little bit active and a little bit passive. And so he just wanted to hit the pause button for about 5 years, 5 to 7 years, be passive, invest in some Reg D syndications and some other business interests and things. And then in a few years down the road, when those things turn around, decide if he wants to take the remaining proceeds that come back and maybe get into a little bit more active position. So there's so much flexibility to using the deferred sales trust, as Jake Miller said, as a keystone strategy to build the retirement plan around, to build the estate plan around, because sometimes maybe they're such a high net worth that we need to address federal and state estate taxes as well. But all of these things can be built around a foundational keystone strategy that we can use the deferred sales trust for.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that live case deal that we helped from start to finish. When I say start to finish, not only establishing the trust, but once it's established, we're not done. In fact, we had that question just the other day, Brett and I and Pierce. There was an individual that asked, well, once the trust is set up, do you all leave me? Am I alone? And the answer is no. And so when I say start to finish, that means that we've effectively helped the proceeds inside of the trust get actively or appropriately based on the individual's risk tolerance, their time horizon, their goals and objectives, reinvested in such a way that it's working for them, that all functions of the trust are humming appropriately because the engine is moving. right? Brett, glad to have you join us here today. And
Come on, everybody. How we doing?
we're in time, I think, for one more deal story of the week. We've had a couple that we've been sharing, and I don't know if you want to bring up one that's active that we're working on right now.
Why don't we share a past one? This one's pretty cool. This is a deal out of Los Angeles. It was a primary home, and a client of mine, she'd worked for the state. She was like an inspector of like apartment buildings and different things like that for the state to make sure there's like, good housing for folks across Los Angeles for like 30 plus years. And so she owned this house. It was a primary home. And I think she bought it is like 35 years ago for like 150,000 or something like that. Something really low, single. Her whole retirement is like, she's a state worker. And then she has her house and she wants to move to Atlanta, Georgia. And so she sold the property for about 1.4 million. The gain, it was a $928,000 gain, deferred around 306 of tax. And this meant a lot of things to her. So she had some freedom from not only the location freedom, because she's moving out of Taxifornia, right? But she also had retirement freedom, so she can get some cash flow flowing rather than doing like a reverse mortgage or having to a cash out refi with, especially given what's happening today with the adjustable rate mortgages. She was able to sell, defer her tax, and then start to get cash flow from the trust to support her income and supplement her income. And the cool thing is, she's like, you know what, Brett, I had the state income and I've always lived with low income. And that's pretty good, but this just gives me a little bit extra. And that extra, she's been able to support grandkids and more of those types of things. But more than that too, she's able to partner with the trust. And they recently purchased a house in Georgia. It's going to be a rental property, and that's really exciting for the family. So those are all the cool things that the Deferred Sales Trust can do. And I love that story because it's now been about a year and a half since it happened. So it's all come together here.
It's nice to see some of these success stories a year or 2 or 5 years later. You're able to really see what the results of the Deferred Sales Trust have been on the individual's personal tax returns, as well as on their investment portfolio. So appreciate you sharing that one, Brett.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think right now we're ready to ask the public, those here on the panel, if you have any questions. Micah has been monitoring the chat. We do have a few questions that we can bring up from past sessions that we didn't have time to answer fully. But if there's anybody out there that'd like to say hello and maybe announce where you're from and highlight something that you learned today that was good, or ask a question that maybe you'd like clarification on, now is your time. And be careful, because if nobody chimes up, I might pick on people. In fact, Monica Chang, can you say hello and tell everybody where you're from and your past work experience?
Hi, Jake. Well, my name is Monica. I have recently been starting to work with Jake and to know about the products that are being offered. So this is very, very interesting. I have been an investment banker in Colombia, and I worked also in New York with JP Morgan. I have like almost 30 years career in banking, and for the last about 10 years, I have been working with private equity funds, the structuring of private equity funds and project evaluation. And more recently, I have been preparing for my CFP exam, taking my certificate with the University of Colorado. So this is a world, and this conversation is very interesting to me because it joins, puts together both worlds, investment and personal advisory. So it's super, super interesting.
Very good. Well, and Monica, I'd like you to meet Pierce. Pierce is somebody that you'll likely be working with quite a bit in the future in regards to other tax strategies, and not only the Deferred Sales Trust, as well as Jake Carpenter. Jake Carpenter's out of the state of Washington. He is a financial advisor extraordinaire. And then, of course, here we have Brett Swartz. Brett Swartz is our highly recommended and trusted trustee. He is a dynamic individual. One of the things that I tell my clients when first introducing them to Brett is that of all the trustee options out there, he actually answers his phone. And not only answers his phone,
that's good.
but he does it in a prompt, knowledgeable, and helpful way. It's rare to find a trustee that knows so much about business in general and so much about real estate. And I don't know, Brett, if this is a moment that you can maybe give a little introduction to yourself and talk about the book.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. By the way, the Jake Miller is in the book. Thanks for all those compliments, Jake. We came out with the book last week, and it's a hit #1 bestseller for real estate and the wealth for Amazon, which is pretty cool. And then we have chapters in the book about, of course, the deferred sales trust, as well as how to grow your business. We have Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book, which is awesome. Jake's chapter is an amazing chapter. I was just reading it the other day again, and it's essentially talking about how the deferred sales trust is a game changer. And I don't know if Pink told you guys the topic today, and maybe not, you know, even seeing the title, but it's, you know, why the deferred sales trust is created for times like this, or, you know, really basically what it can do for everybody. And this is a book that we believe is created for times like this, because you want to be able to exit, you want to be able to defer your tax, grow your wealth, be able to invest into real estate, into securities. And the deferred sales trust is kind of the cornerstone part of the book, but the chapters are centered around how to do all those things. So yeah, check out the book.
Now, we talked a little bit about Reg D investments, but Brett, can you or Jake touch on what is inside of a Reg D investment, or what can be inside of the trust, and how does the trust reinvest?
Yes, the trust can invest in just about anything. That's as long as it's business purpose and it has investment purpose. It's not something for primary or personal use. And if you want that, you can certainly just pay tax on whatever amount that you're going to be spending on like your primary home or like a boat or something that's personal, right? Personal consumption. So the whole idea of this business trust is to be in business. And the whole idea of the tax deferral, whether it be a 1031 exchange, IRA, or 401k, is to invest back into the economy, which is going to grow more business. The study of macroeconomics, that if we keep money flowing and moving and going back into the economy, it's going to create more jobs. When it creates more jobs, it's going to actually create more tax or revenue. So the biggest winner here is the IRS and is the state authorities, especially because they have new property taxes when properties sell. Of course, they have the commissions that the agents pay when they sell. They have new debt that's going into place where people pay taxes on those fees. We pay taxes on what we make. Of course, the owner who's receiving income from the trust. And so the best thing to understand is that once you get that foundation of, okay, this is actually benefiting everyone who's involved, it's a great thing. Now, as far as the investments themselves, the unique part about the deferred sales trust is you're not limited to just, you know, one asset class, like a 1031 exchange would be. You have to go into like kind investment property, whereas the deferred sales trust, you can go into multiple assets at optimal timing, meaning anytime. We typically like to dollar cost average. Of course, we like to diversify, and we like to give a lot of liquidity right now, and more so even today, because guess what? Stock market's been, let's say, been hurting for the last 12 months or so, or kind of been coming down. Well, real estate, especially commercial real estate, is starting to see some cracks and starting to turn. Okay. And so we're looking at that. And that's why the deferred sales trust is created for times like this, because you can pivot as long as you're not too tied up into a deal that's illiquid. And so part of what we'd like to do is a Reg D private placement, a real estate lending fund has been actually our choice, if you will. If we had a choice, the note holder always approves of every investment, but if we had like a preference, we've been liking that because I call it 30-day liquid, which is within about 30 days, you can get the money out. The fund's never lost a single dollar. It pays about 10 to 12%. It's never dropped below 10%. And it pays monthly cash flow. And they lend to those that are in multifamily operations or ownership. The average net worth is $4 million. They personally guarantee the loan. And the average LTV is at 55%. Meaning the value in order for them to lose a dollar. And before that, they're really experts in their families. They can either, you know, foreclose or come alongside to help the person out, and therefore preserve the capital for the investor. And so that being said, now might be a good time to pivot and working with Jake Miller, Jake Carpenter, to buy stocks that are you know, perhaps down. That's their area of expertise. And the goal here is to say, what does the client prefer? What do they feel comfortable with? But also, what are some opportunities, and create a family office environment. We're bringing in experts from every kind of niche to help execute on not only this preservation of wealth, but also the ability to grow the wealth using the DST. So hopefully that answers the question, Jake. But more technical stuff for Jake Carpenter, maybe on the Reg D, if he wants to touch on that.
Go ahead, Jake Carpenter. Do you want to touch on what can be in a Reg D, or how do we package deals so that a trust can invest in them directly?
Yeah, so Reg Ds are great because, again, you can invest in a lot of different kinds of flavors of real estate, whether it be a multifamily blend. There can really be a lot of things, both inside the country and outside the country, that are real estate based. Just as long as it fits the risk tolerance of the individual and the seller who's working with Brett Swartz, the trustee, to make sure it's alignment with the risk tolerance. But there's a lot of upside. I mean, Reg Ds is kind of, other than directly managing and owning and running in an active way real estate, it's kind of the best of both worlds, and being able to access real estate, but not necessarily being actively involved. You don't have to deal with trash, toilets, tenants, liability, and management, but the returns are still pretty good, as Brett Swartz was saying. Generally there's double digit returns, and sometimes even double digit income opportunities off of those. And so we can blend those in a portfolio of real estate where there's Reg Ds in different parts of the country, maybe a little bit out of the country, and then time those so that when they come due, we can take a look at that capital that comes back from the Reg Ds and go, hey, are there some stocks that are down that maybe we want to shift over into, with a portion of that to take advantage of some of the upside, as the market volatility always provides some opportunity. When the stocks are down, they're on sale. So it's a beautiful way of being able to move around within the trust, because the trust doesn't have to, as a 1031 exchange, go back into like kind property. And this is also the beauty with the business sale. Using the deferred sales trust with the business sale, you can use a deferral strategy that a business sale does not qualify for 1031 exchanges. So now you can take proceeds from a business sale, and maybe it's highly concentrated. You got $10-20 million wrapped up in one business. That's a very concentrated position. Now we can move it out through some Reg Ds in different locations of the country and different kinds of asset classes, maybe even a little bit out of the country, and create some diversity and some three-dimensional diversity is what I call it. And then also look at the stock market and decide, when things are down, when is a good time to move in? And when things are up, maybe when is a good time to move out?
And sometimes in the middle too, Jake Miller and Jake Carpenter, right? We have some T-bills, right? We've been looking at T-bills quite a bit, or even money market accounts that, paying 4 to 5%, and relatively, unless the U.S. government fails on the T-bills, low risk. But Jake Miller, you want to touch on just the ability to be kind of completely on the sidelines, neither in Reg D nor stocks, but just be waiting and being patient.
Right. And I call that opportunity investing. It's very similar to corporate asset management, which is an important thing to identify. Pierce in the very beginning was talking about the team that's brought to the table. And even though sometimes we wear a hat of a financial advisor or corporate asset manager or trustee or whatever, there's a distinction. With the deferred sales trust, some of these talented individuals are selected specifically because of their experiences and their ability within their industries. Not any financial advisor knows how to do corporate asset management. And to your point, Brett, what does that mean? That means investing in the short term so that when there's an opportunity, you're fully liquid and you're not going to feel pain by selling, because it's not in something that's down because of timing. So you invest in the short term until that big real estate deal comes along, or until that big joint venture that your trust can participate in as a silent partner comes around, or until the timing is right for that next move that you need to make. But in the meantime, let's not be lazy with the money, right? We don't want lazy money sitting in a bank account that might go under, like Silicon Valley, right? We want to actually be doing something that doesn't put you at risk, but allows you to earn 4, 5, 6% interest, what have you. In the meantime, until we're ready to pull the trigger. When I say pull the trigger, Brett as the trustee is usually the trigger man, right? But he's behind the goals and objectives and guidance from the individuals who are now the creditors or the lenders to the trust, who hold the promissory note that originally put the asset into the trust, right? So they establish the parameters, and some of those parameters might be hold and wait. And so a lot of times we hold and wait in treasury bills. We might layer a number of different maturity period bills so that we're getting a better rate of return, but at the same time not incurring any risk and having zero downside on liquidating.
That's perfect. That's great. Well said, Jake Miller. Hey, Jake Carpenter, good job. Pierce York, can I add anything to this? Looks like you're muted.
No, I'm not muted. No, I think that's the beauty of it. You know, you can ebb and flow with the market and take advantage of opportunities. You know, one of the worst places you can be is a motivated buyer. You know, and if you have to position yourself to, you know, and use one strategy to, you know, a 1031 or whatever, right, to try and defer the tax, I think you're using the tax tail that wags the investment dog, as you like to say. You know, and it pigeonholes you in this market, in this kind of landscape. Flexibility, maneuverability, and be able to control timing and what assets you can go in and out of can exponentially change the wealth that you create. Yeah,
you nailed that. I want to add to that too. Like getting out of debt right now, it's the worst thing to be a motivated buyer, but you can't qualify for the debt because you have too much debt on other assets that you haven't sold. And the reason you haven't sold them is because of the capital gains tax. And even if you sold them and did a 1031, guess what? You have to replace the debt, right? And replace and place the sales price. And this is where we strategize and work with you to be able to retire a lot of that debt, get it out of your name, typically using Delaware statutory zero coupon deals, where the debt can be in a corporation's name and not and your name and non-recourse, but it still satisfies the requirement if you have any debt over basis challenges, or if you don't have debt over basis challenges, just simply retiring the debt and getting the money liquid and getting it prepared, getting your powder dry so that you can take advantage of opportunities to purchase at a discount, whether that be stocks, dollar cost averaging, whether that be real estate, people that are going to get foreclosed or having to do, you know, short sales on their assets, or whether that just be deals that actually make sense for you when you find it because you have the time to find it. And oh, by the way, it can be in pieces. Like you might sell a $20 million apartment complex in Newport Beach, but you might find a perfect $5 million deal 6 months from now, and another $3 million another couple months from now. And then the rest of it can be sitting and waiting for the next deals. In other words, you don't have to buy another $20 million deal right away. And so it's giving you that optimal timing and that optimal pricing based upon the intrinsic value of the asset, regardless of the price, right? Versus just saying, oh, I'm not even looking at that are less than, you know, 10 or 15 or 20 million because I've got to replace this thing, right? It's like walking into a store and just saying, I can't even look at anything on sale because my gift card is going to force me to pay $300 for these pair of jeans. And if I don't spend it in the next 24 hours, I might as well, you know, one pair of jeans, it's going to be, you know, rather than being like, I found a great deal, like 50, right? So I think that's key to have that freedom of optimal timing. Jake Miller, Pierce York, add anything to that?
So talking about optimal timing right there, that brings up another deal story of the week. Brett, do you recall the auto dealership that we spoke with this week?
So that we spoke, I don't.
So we had the tax attorney, and this auto dealer out of the state of Maine is looking to sell the Buick portion of his used car dealership. So he has several different makes, models, and brands there. And this represents roughly 1.7 of capital of income that he's going to receive, 1.7 million that's going to be taxed at capital gains tax rates unless he does something different. And he's looking at a number of different tax mitigation strategies, and is intrigued by the deferred sales trust. And he was the individual that we were comparing a opportunity zone fund investment after the fact, or proactively setting up a deferred sales trust. Do you recall that conversation?
It's a little bit's come back to me, but yeah, it's still, yeah. But keep going. This is good. This is good.
The timing piece that you brought up with this last story became very important, specifically for him. The timing of being able to reinvest the assets in something that actually can produce, because a lot of the opportunity zone fund investments that he's been looking at recently, the savings or the benefit are in the tax savings. The actual rate of return on a lot of opportunity zone funds that he's been looking at through a number of advisors are very minimal, 4 or 5%. And here with the deferred sales trust, he could put that into treasury bills, have a lot less risk, and have the same outcome. Well, similar outcome in the short run. However, in discussion with him, a number of the different pros and cons of both strategies, he's leaning more towards the side of the deferred sales trust because there's a higher degree of flexibility and there's a lot of other types of investments that provide a much higher rate of return. And we can couple the deferred sales trust, as we keep mentioning, as the keystone strategy in a stone archway. There's a lot of other stones or a lot of other tax strategies that we can use as he does take assets out of the deferred sales trust and reinvest them. And anyway, so
yeah, I think that's great. Let me give you the top 10 right now. I'll try to do rapid fire, and then maybe Pierce and Jay, you can add to it as well. Reasons to have optimal timing. Number one, dollar cost averaging, right? You have a chance to slowly move into assets, regardless if it's an up or down market. If you have the ability to be liquid, you can dollar cost average. Number two, you can buy something hopefully low versus high, which is another form of dollar cost averaging, but essentially you can buy when it makes sense, right? When the deals make sense. Number three, with optimal timing, you can optimally time each market, whether it be real estate, stock, whether it be the sidelines like with T-bills just sitting there, whether it be passive opportunities. Number four would be optimal timing for just your lifestyle, right? Like it's optimally timing for me to retire and not spend as much time building wealth, right? So wealth itself is not just defined as financial freedom, right? Our clients have achieved that many millions of dollars ago. It's now optimal timing with my family wealth, my time wealth, my energy wealth, my hobbies, my travel, my philanthropy, my giving back and making a difference wealth. So it's the optimal timing for your lifestyle, if you will. Is that 4 or 5? Maybe that's 4. Number 5 would be optimal timing with debt, right? I mean, think about it. Like you don't want to be in a 1031 right now, typically, and with debt having increased so rapidly, so fast, perhaps maybe in a year, debt is actually lower. And so instead of fixing debt right now at a bad timing for 5 years, perhaps you can fix debt when things actually calm down and the Fed stops inching up all of the benchmarks, right? So it could be optimal timing to take on debt when deals make sense. I think that's only 5. So I'm gonna pass it to Jake. Jake, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Can you think of any more?
In the world of reinvesting, it's really critical to have a couple different timelines in mind. And so not only when to get in, but when to get out. And so one of the others might be, optimal time to cash in.
Yeah, and by the way, and cash out too when the trust goes up, right? Because the cool thing is you typically, the gains that are rolling back into the trust, let's say you buy a stock today that goes up 30% in 1 year, you can sell that and roll the gains back into the trust. And typically the trust is still operating at a loss on the trust level, but you haven't received that income from the trust. And so you don't have to feel, I guess the fear of missing out or the fear of having to suffer the tax consequences to sell high. So it's optimal timing, not only on the buy, but also within the corpus of the trust to get out at good timing. That's a good one, Jake. I haven't thought about that one yet. Pierce, can you think of any other optimal timings right now?
Yeah, I would say optimal timing to not buy. Right? Like, so you're not forced to buy right now, and you can sit down and you can breathe. You don't have to go, right? Along the lines of your, optimal timing to kind of spend more time with family, right? Like maybe you have kids and they're in there 12 to 15, and you'd rather take a break for a few years, get passive, like one of Jake's carpenter's people, right? And you want to spend time with them, and and then when they go to college, you can get back into investing.
That's the key, right? Optimal time to be an entrepreneur when and if you want to be again, which most entrepreneurs, they always want to be. That's how they love to do what they do. But they also recognize that, oh my gosh, if I sell my business, I'm gonna hit with the tax. But if I can sell it now with the real estate, like Warren and Catherine did, right? When they were spending time with the 2 10-year-olds, the twin daughters, they had kids a little older in life, and they're going, I'm driving 4.5 hours, weekends to go deal with the toilets, trash, and liability of the property. How about I optimally time and sell this thing? And oh, by the way, we've increased their cash flow by about 50%, and we've decreased their risk, and we've got them out of tax California for that investment, and they diversified their wealth. But The point was they could still go back in later on, immediately, or a couple of years from now, or when the kids are a certain age. They can also partner with their kids. That's what I've seen too. I've seen clients that have older children, and it's optimally an opportunity for them to help their children be an entrepreneur. Because guess what? You can partner with your children to start a business or to buy a piece of real estate. Like, that's so cool, right? You don't have to just do it all yourself. You can do it within the family and keep that going. Anything else come to mind, Pierce or Jake, on that?
I'm sure there's more.
Good. Well, we did about 8 there, 7 or 8. We tried for 10, but we're just going to expand our minds here. I think we caught over. Well, everybody, Jake, I mean, you're hosting this bad boy today. You want to wrap us up here, or Micah?
Absolutely. I guess, Micah, if people want to reach out to Strategic Tax Solutions, how do they do that?
Yeah, our website, strategictaxsolutions.com, or 800 number 800-773-1848. Happy to help you.
Very good. Pierce York, should people have questions for you about tax strategies or the deferred sales trust, how do they reach you?
You can find me at Living in Newport Beach, California, YouTube channel, or kingdomluxuryrealty.com. You can also email me. I have a bunch of different emails that are all over all the websites. So I'm on there somewhere. Yeah, the websites will bring it to me.
And with that website, it almost sounds like they need to walk out to the beach to see you.
Yes, if you're in Newport Beach and you got some real estate that you want to sell, or you're in Orange County, let us know.
Yeah.
We can absolutely help you there.
There
Or
you go.
LA County. We'll do LA or San Diego.
Wonderful. Jake Carpenter, how do people say hello to you? How do they reach out?
That's 2 ways, is to email me at Jake, Jake @carpenter.capital. That's CARPENTER.capital, CAPITAL. Or you can call me at 509-460-8700.
Very good. And of course, Monica Ching, if you want to reach out to her, she's available through our website and our phone number. But in addition, Monica, you're on LinkedIn, right? So
My contact, I'm very easy to contact through LinkedIn.
awesome. Very
Thank
good.
you.
All right. Brett Suarez, if people want to reach out to Capital Gains Tax Solutions, how do they do that?
You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Also, we're streaming this live on our YouTube channel, Capital Gains Tax Solutions. So you can check that out. We're also streaming Expert CRE Secrets as well. And then don't forget about the book. It's Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan for yourself and your clients. On the sale of any asset of any kind, it needs to be $1 million net proceeds. $1 million gain is the minimum. Again, we just hit the #1 bestseller list. We'd love the opportunity for you to check this book out. Go to Amazon to check out how to get that book. Thanks, everybody. And Jake, take us away.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. And remember us, should you be experiencing that largest transaction of your life and it might be eligible for a deferred sales trust, give us a call and we will help you know if you're an eligible candidate. Thanks now. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Recording stopped.